hey, how do I profit from this incoming Bitcoin ETF pump if you think that's what's going to happen? And I want to tell you something. If you have not gotten to one Bitcoin and you are thinking about how to speculate and you are thinking about how to do extracurricular trading activities, then I think you are the biggest moron on earth. You have one chance in human history so far to acquire as much of the scarcest, hardest asset humanity has ever seen with one moment to grab it at the same cost, at the same, all of the same levels and all of the same analytics as multi-billionaires, people that are wealthier than you, etc., etc. I do not think that anyone who has not gotten to one Bitcoin, at a minimum, should be sitting here figuring out how to speculate so they can try and, listen to the YouTubers, the Twitterers, the whateverers, to try and speculate and generate a profit. Speculation, I believe, is a right of the rich. Because you have to, and a lot of people are going to hate that. I know you're going to hate that. But speculation is a right of the rich. If you're poor, you finally have a savings technology. You finally have something that you can actually hold and you can take care of for your future, for your children, for your progeny going forward. And if you're thinking about, hey, how do I take a little piece of this and speculate with it to try and get some more Bitcoin in the future, you're just a shit coiner and you don't understand what you hold. You don't understand the asset. And the final message for you in that scenario should be to follow the 3 rules of Bitcoin, which is step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, shut the fuck up. And step number 3, get fabulously wealthy. However, the amount of questions and phone calls that I've gotten about what positions I'm taking to profit from the potential Bitcoin ETF pump from people who have earned the right to speculate, and you might call me an elitist. There's going to be $1,000 net worthers and the $10 a month DCA gang and all the happy hippies that are, especially in the crypto space, telling me, oh my God, you're such an elitist. I am an elitist, okay? Let's just get that out the way. So I'm British at the end of the day. So listen, if you are at the point where you have earned the right to speculate, and I can't dictate what that means to you, it's up to you whether you have earned the right to speculate or not in your portfolio, in your wealth gathering and everything else. If you're the type of stupid person who is going to see a report come out like we had this morning, which dumped the price of Bitcoin by 9%, because some moron decided to say, hey, we think that the ETFs are all going to get denied, which then the Bloomberg guys, who have arguably the most insight out of any analysts, came out and said, we just don't agree with anything that this report says, and the price basically pumped back up. If you are someone that fell for that, you really should be stepping away. You should buy your Bitcoin, put it in cold storage, and step away from the market, because you are a threat to your future. You are a threat to your progeny. You are a threat to the people that depend on you. You have no control over your emotions. You don't understand how markets work. You don't understand how market manipulation works, and you should just stop. You should just stop. Bitcoin is not a trading asset. Bitcoin is a savings technology, and you should treat it as such. Understand scarcity and treat it as such, and step away from anything else, because you are a hazard to your own wealth. However, if you are someone who has earned the right to speculate, you are someone who does want to speculate, then the conversation around how do you exactly speculate and profit from what's going on here, I just want to give you my thoughts and let you know which positions I've spent the last couple weeks, 3 weeks, a month accumulating slowly. And now, after today's dump, which I was fully expecting, it was going to be a dump before this day, as the deadline approaches on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of January, which, by the way, should be the reason why, if you have not, you hit subscribe on this channel as we analyze and go through, what are the different ways to look at the market from a retail perspective. Because you bet your ass that this dump was institutional. This dump was not retail. This layup and this dump was not created by YouTube traders and Twitter traders. This was an orchestrated attempt to scare as many people out the market as possible before what looks like a 90% chance of a spot Bitcoin ETF approval in the United States. So what am I doing, and what positions have I accumulated? I'm going to talk through some things here, and I just want to immediately piss some people off because there are some MicroStrategy fans that can't see logic. All they see is the fact that MicroStrategies keeps acquiring Bitcoin, even though it came out that Michael Saylor has to sell like $220 million of his own stock. Makes perfect sense to me. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't I sell something that has a premium of, and again, I've been arguing about this premium too. Let's just say 25 to 40% premium, depending on the day that you look at it, depending on the time that you look at it, depending on how you calculate it, on your way of thinking about it. This is just my way of thinking about it. There's no reason why you wouldn't do that. Why you wouldn't sell something that has a 25 to 40% premium, buy the underlying asset, which is the one you want anyway. And so, yeah, I will not be allocating anything to MicroStrategy for the purpose of this pump and profiting from this pump. I'm also suggesting that, again, most people should not be risking anything in speculating. I have been doing this for 18 years now. I have been trading and speculating and training myself in speculation for 18 years. This is not something that anyone can just do. Just because you have access to it doesn't mean that you should do it. So here's the way that I've been planning and structuring the risk part of my portfolio. And again, this does not include the Bitcoin in cold storage, in multi-sig. Again, I would have to fly to 3 different countries in order to move that. So this has nothing to do with that. This is in a brokerage account. This is using equities markets. And here's the way that I'm thinking about this. Firstly, I'm not using MicroStrategy. The reason why I'm not using MicroStrategy is I have a concern. Again, you can do whatever you want to do. I'm a capitalist. You have the right to make and lose money, and so do I. So if I miss out on the greatest ever MicroStrategy pump we've ever seen in our lives on the day of ETF approval, then that's that. I will live with that. The reason why I'm not using MicroStrategy is very simple. I believe that there is a premium attached. I believe that the premium attached to MicroStrategy will not hold up well once an ETF is approved. I also believe that if you believe and understand in my last video about MicroStrategy, which you can go watch a few days ago, if you understand that, then really MicroStrategy is a competitor in the portfolio as a leveraged option on Bitcoin, not an alternative to a Bitcoin ETF. So I think the capital that goes and stays in MicroStrategy will be one that's looking specifically for leverage. And in that case, you have the other options for leverage on Bitcoin, which is going to be the mining stocks, right? That's an option for leverage on Bitcoin. You're also going to have derivatives on top of the Bitcoin ETF. And right now, you've got the Bitcoin futures contract. So if you've got all of those options for leverage, which you didn't have before, because now it's clear that MicroStrategy is not a Bitcoin ETF alternative, I don't know how well it's going to hold up, and therefore I don't want to take that risk with my money, right? You can, of course, I'll say it again for all the MicroStrategy fans, do whatever the fuck you want to do. I don't care. But here's how I'm doing it. I've been accumulating positions in Mara. I've been accumulating positions in Riot. I've been accumulating positions in Bitfarms. I've been accumulating positions in BITO as well. BITO is the futures ETF. And again, all of these are very, very short-term positions. It's a tiny amount of capital as a percentage of, someone's trying to disturb me. It's a tiny amount of capital as a percentage of the overall portfolio. When I say tiny, I mean like low single-digit percentages of capital. It is just designed for a little bit of spike to celebrate, because this is what speculators do. So I'm accumulating positions in Mara. I'm accumulating positions in HUT. I'm accumulating positions in Bitfarms and BITO. Those are my main core positions that I have taken at this point to profit from a potential Bitcoin ETF approval on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of January. That's the way that I'll be going. I want you to know what, if you are speculating, what you'll be doing. So leave that in the comments. But overall, I don't think anyone needs to. We're about to enter an era here. And by the way, if this happens, then obviously these positions are going to make a ton of money. And I'm using derivatives on these positions. I'm not buying the underlying stock. Although the underlying stock is also a good way to make a slight increased return on the underlying Bitcoin, right? But as soon as these positions turn into a reasonable amount of profit, they're going to be flipped straight into Bitcoin for me. So ultimately, if you're sitting there and you're not a speculator and you're not someone who's used to speculating in the markets, the best thing you can do is just buy Bitcoin, right? That's the best thing that most people can do, because here's the alternative that happens. The spot Bitcoin ETF doesn't get approved on the 8th, 9th, or 10th of January. And then what happens is every single dollar that I have put into these trades goes to zero. And that is something that I have to accept at this moment in time. And that's one of the things that my mentor taught me a long time ago. If you're going to place a short-term speculative trade, you have to be happy to lose and write down the amount of money you put in that trade on day one. The very second you place it, you have to mark the value of that investment down to zero. That's the only way that you get to survive, and that's the only way that you get to stick through it psychologically. So that's what I do. Anytime I place a speculative trade, I'm just, the question I ask myself is, hey, am I happy to mark this amount of cash down to zero? And if I'm not, then I don't place the trade. And on this one, I am, because I'm confident that we're going to get the spot Bitcoin ETF approval, and I think there will be a short-term spike. We may be followed by a dump in the price, but these positions will be closed out long before then. I have my profit numbers that I place automatic closing orders on, so it's all taken care of basically from that perspective. But again, I know there's going to be a lot of people wondering, hey, what is the best way to speculate from this? And I didn't want, I just wanted to share how I'm going to be doing it, so people don't get confused and people don't get tied up in their ways. I don't think you should be doing a leverage long position on Bitcoin. I don't think you should be going and buying Bitcoin call options. I tried that in the last cycle, and the liquidity just isn't big enough yet to do that. But I do my speculation on Bitcoin through the equities markets, because that's where I've got 18, 19 years of experience doing it. And the positions that I think are going to profit quite well from that is going to be the mining stocks that I mentioned and BITO, the futures ETF. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, hey, how do I do this? I can't tell you. This is the way that I'm doing it. Those are the positions that I've taken. Again, I'm using derivatives to do so. I don't recommend derivatives for people who understand markets. Derivatives are a highly speculative yet highly profitable and high risk situation. There's the best trade that I did in the last cycle was a $234,000 investment in a derivative trade, which yielded a $2 million profit on one trade. And again, all flipped into Bitcoin. But I do not think that derivatives are a good thing for most people to do, because most people do not have the temperament or the risk understanding or anything about markets in order to make that work. However, if you are looking to speculate a little bit, the worst thing I want to see is for people to dump into different things like a leverage long position on a shitcoin exchange, and then get absolutely screwed because there's a dip hours before. Conveniently, there can be dips hours before an approval like that. So again, this is how I'm doing it. I do it in public markets. I don't like the lack of liquidity in Bitcoin options markets just yet. So that's what I'm doing. But ultimately, we are getting close now. So if you're not getting to one Bitcoin, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your future. Please subscribe so we can get this message out to more people, because the time is coming. And if you are going to speculate, let me know in the comments how you're planning on doing it and what positions you've accumulated. Ultimately, there are always only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.